but we get up. Oh yes, for a saint is just a sinner who fell down, but we couldn't stay there, and God say now we fall down, but we get up, get back up. We fall down, but we get up, back up. We fall down, oh my, we get back up again. For a saint is just a sinner. Oh, yes we are, but we can't stay there. There's a seed of righteousness inside of you. Oh, we say now, but we get back up again. We fall down sometimes, but we get back up again. Yes, we do that. We rise back up again for a sinner. Everybody say now we fall down. Sometimes we get back up again. Sometimes we fall, but we get back up again. It's not too late. It's not too late for us.
Thank you very much, Nadine. I mean, that song is very motivational. It's a kind of uplifting song, especially for some of us out there who are going through our challenges and struggles. Sometimes we need a little pickup. Sometimes we need to be reminded that
okay, not to be okay, but be okay.
Yes, and when you fall down, just get up 1,000,000 times. Yes. If you fall down 1,000,000 times, get up 1,000,001 times. You know, and I think Minister Vaz, who is on the line with us right now, is a man who knows how to fall down and get up. Minister Vaz, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, Daryl, good morning, Minister. Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you much better now. Thank you, sir.
Perfect. So, Minister Vaz, welcome to Good Morning, Minister. So let me start by saying good morning, Minister.
Good morning to you, sir, Minister, as well, and to your listeners, the first time on your program.
Thank you very much. I'm here with Nadine. She's on the controls here, as well as the team from Love FM. And we thought that we would reach out to you this morning because there have been a lot happening, both in the parish of Portland and in your ministry. I know that you'll be speaking today in the sectoral debates where you'll be giving some updates on what you've been doing in your ministry. But before I go to that, I want to start off by I could not start without asking you about what's going on in East and West Portland. We know that you were at Postcab this morning where you spoke about some of the water challenges and the solutions that are coming. Don't know if you'd love to give the listeners of Love FM a little overview of what some of the challenges that you've been facing and what some of the solutions are to those challenges.
Sure. Thanks very much, and thank you for your listeners to bear me out. So we have a major problem, and this problem is caused by climate change. There's a lot of people that think climate change is coming. There's a lot of people that think that there's nothing named climate change. The fact is that we are in the throes of the effects of climate change. We have gone from the parish with the most rainfall to the parish with the least rainfall. And that is having severe impact because we are in a crisis as it relates to drought. We have several minor and major water supplies which are basically underperforming, which means that there is no water at all, or when there is water, it is regulated and basically you're getting water for a few hours a week in the worst case scenario, and maybe 1 day a week or 2 days a week, which is totally unsustainable. On top of which, we have an issue where geographically it is so difficult to be able to do trucking of water. Trucking of water is neither cost effective or is it efficient, because obviously if you think from the border of St. Thomas, Hector's River and Portland to St. Mary and Portland at Dover, you can understand that that is probably about 30 or 40 miles, not including when you turn off the main roads up into the hills and valleys. So both the minor water supply is controlled by the municipal council, and the major water supply is controlled by the National Water Commission, are not producing the level of water that is needed. On top of which, Robert, the other issue is that there has been a lack of infrastructure investment in water and roads for over the last 60 years, specifically in Portland. We have a road project valued for Portland of 6 packages of the South Coast Highway Improvement, valued at $10 billion, not million, $1 billion, which is undergoing now. And the problem we are facing is that with the drought, the dust nuisance is at a high. And the fact is that no matter how much wetting of the road that you do, you cannot sustain it because the heat is so intense that within 15 minutes, that water dries up and becomes dust again. So what I have done is I have made a recommendation which has been accepted, which is to oil the entire thoroughfare of the temporary roads that have been dug up. Very costly, but very necessary in a crisis such as this, because it means that they'll have to oil the roads again when they are preparing to pave. But we cannot continue the way we are going now in relation to the issues of the dust nuisance and the maintenance of the roads. So we have a double whammy that is facing us in Portland, and it is not man-made. In terms of the drought, it is climate change, and the only thing that we can do is pray. And since we're on Love FM, we can start the prayers, and the listeners can start the prayers from now, not only for Portland, but for the entire country, because I'm sure you're having similar issues in Clarendon, maybe not as intense, but I want to close by saying that MPs, and the responsibility of MPs is to lobby for infrastructure development and for opportunities for their constituents. We have no control once we have done that on the implementation and the supervision of such works. That is state agencies that respond and answer to government through ministries. So it is a bit unfair for the MPs to be blamed for the lack of water or the inconveniences based on infrastructure that they have fought for. Minister Samuda and the Prime Minister spoke in Parliament yesterday extensively, in specific to Portland as well, and Minister Samuda followed up at postcard. So you will see that it has the government's attention at the highest level, and we are getting and putting in measures. We are going to be increasing the trucking. We're going to be doing some repairs to the existing supplies so that when water comes back, it will be more efficient. We have spent, through the lobbying of the MPs in Portland, $10 million on the trucking of water between January and April, and we have allocated $10 million for May and June alone, and more than likely, based on the trajectory and the Met Office forecast, it's not going to get any better till July. So we have a way to go, and of course we just have to come together and work together to see how we can work and navigate through this crisis.
You mentioned climate change at the beginning of your statement on what is happening in Portland. Tell us a little bit more about it, because I heard the Prime Minister speak about the fact that, unlike several other places in Jamaica, it is surface water that Portland depends on because of the geology. It's not really as much limestone as, let's say, Clarendon or St. Catherine. It's more volcanic rock, which is not as porous doesn't have any aquifers. What impact is that having on the communities who used to depend on rivers and so on?
Huge, because the fact of the matter is, as you know, as a UL MP, the majority of people are not connected to the National Water Commission, and of course the municipal councils. They get water from them when it's available, but most times we have to improvise by going to the nearest spring or the nearest river, and basically use that as their alternate source. That alternate source now has dried up. As a matter of fact, MP Honourable Vaz was telling me yesterday that a spring that used to supply a whole community with good natural spring water, she saw somebody there with a plastic liter bottle, and it took an extensive period for that bottle to be filled up by just drip and drop until it was filled, whereas before it would have been filled in seconds. And of course, there are some geographic locations that are on top of hills that have no access to springs or rivers based on the geographic location, that depend on the Portland Municipal Council with the minor water supplies, which are under severe drought. So it's not easy to explain in words the situation that residents are facing in particular communities, especially because it's a crisis. I mean, without water, I mean, there's not much you can do. So it is really a problem, and I'm concerned and worried that the fact of the matter is that we're not going to get the usual millions that we expect, and we have to go through this till July because trucking is increasing. We had 4 trucks, now we have 7. Minister Samud has promised 2 more, so that's 9. But 9 trucks still is not sufficient, and people are still going to have to wait extended periods to get water, not because of any other fault than drought.
But so Daryl, you have been, I know you've been doing a lot of trucking. Tell me about how you're managing to support the police stations, the hospitals, the schools, because we have not heard of any disruptions in schools or anybody being turned from hospital.
It's a full-time job. Outside of my ministerial responsibility, I don't think that there's anything else that takes up more of my time, because it needs leadership and it needs coordination. And the fact of the matter, with limited trucks, and remember, Robert, that you're using the same trucks for the minor water supplies, the municipal council and NWC and the private sector. And the private sector are paying higher rates than the government. So the bottom line is that they get priority. And everybody is in trouble. The hotels, the guest houses, the villas, the private residents, the banks. I mean, every private sector entity is having to deal with water issues as well. So what we do is that we coordinate between the truckers, which are the same truckers for the both government entities, and then we work alongside with a schedule that basically tries to incorporate everybody getting water as frequently as possible. But as I said, with the distances that they have to travel, the road conditions based on the South Coast Highway, and not only that, the filling of the water tanks at the stations. That can take a 4,000 gallon truck can take an hour to an hour and a half to fill, where the 8,000 gallon taking 3 to 4 hours. So what we have had to do also is to go with a longer schedule. We're now delivering water 18 hours a day. People getting truck water all at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Because without that, so we have to make up more hours in the day to be able to reach the more communities. And I mean, the logistics of that is not easy. And then the truck, we have problems with the truck, sometimes it breaks down, etc. The driver sick. So I would say to you, based on the situation that we find ourselves, we probably need about 15 trucks full time, 18 hours a day, to be able to break the back of it. So we are now trying to source trucks from outside of the parish to come in and work. But of course, all the other parishes have their own issues as well. So it's a problem, Robert. It's a big problem, and I'm very sympathetic. So
I'm really happy that you're giving us this. I'm really happy that you're giving us this insight, because we've been watching television and we've been seeing people protesting and people expressing their frustration, and we appreciate the fact that people have a right to protest, because if people are dissatisfied, yes. And we're really happy that you were able to come out with the minister, you and the Prime Minister and Minister Samuda, to outline some of the solutions that we're going to be doing. But I want you to focus a little bit more on some of these solutions. Yes, you've spoken to us about the trucking, and you've spoken to us about the oiling of the road. But one of the things that your constituents and that of your neighbor in the East has been asking about is the question of, when is the road going to be completed? When are the packages going to be completed to ensure that the people who have been waiting for decades, who have not had proper roads for decades, they will have roads in short order?
So your question, the $10 billion that I spoke about is 6 packages. 2 have been completed already. 2 are due to be completed by October of this year, which is where you're seeing the demonstrations now. And there's a last 2 which are going to go out in June of this year, awarded in June, which there's a very, very, very likely possibility that China Harbour themselves will do those last 2 packages based on all that has happened with these first 4. That is a decision still to be determined, because I believe they will be able to complete it more efficiently, and of course give the necessary supervision that is required. So the bottom line is that it's not just roads. It is the $10 billion is not just roads. It's roads, retaining walls, culverts, proper drainage, most importantly, water mains for all the packages, sewage mains where they apply, and of course utilities, because we are running fiber, etc., so that when we have the national broadband rollout, all of that infrastructure will be in place already to be able to connect, giving, of course, everybody access, well-needed access to internet services. So it's a comprehensive plan that we are doing. But let me state very clearly, the Prime Minister said that he is not satisfied in relation to the work protocols. Minister Warmington has said so. Member of Parliament Honourable Vaz has said so. And I say so categorically that in relation to the road conditions during the construction, a lot more could have been done. A lot more supervision and a lot more consideration to the traveling public and the residents along that corridor. And for that, I want to apologize on behalf of the government and, of course, as a member of Parliament and a member of this cabinet. There's no two ways about that. And we know that there's supply chain issues, etc., in terms of the pipes that need to be laid, and we couldn't finish the road until the pipes are laid. But the contractor and the subcontractors have not been conscious and diligent in relation to the situation with the residents. So I say that categorically, and I'm saying that the last 2 packages that are about to start cannot and will not be business as usual in relation to what has transpired on the 4 that have gone before. There's going to be fundamental changes in relation to how we carry it out and consideration, because the fact is that, or what I consider to be the mistake, is digging up the entire road and not doing it in segments and paving it, rather than having the whole road dug up. And of course, you have pipe work, etc., to be done, which takes months. And that, with the impact of COVID and delays, that is what has caused the biggest misery
So
in the parish.
So Minister, so the people of Portland can be confident that within another year and a half that
end of 24 for the two packages that are two are complete, two are 95% complete, paved and all of that. Two now are some parts of it are paved and the water mains have been for the two existing packages, all water mains have been laid and the testing has been done. So the last segment of it now is obviously to reinstate the road and do the paving. And I would say that we would look for I would say based on the projection that China has given, I would say probably September for completion, but many parts of it will be paved long before that because there's paving taking place as we speak.
So
for the last two packages, December 24 in the next year, and that would mean that the entire Portland thoroughfare from Hector's River to Port Antonio would be completed, and of course accessible.
I want to remind our listeners on Love 101 FM that we are here with Minister of Science, Energy and Technology, the Honourable Daryl Vaz. He's also a Member of Parliament for West Portland, and he has just given us an update on some of the challenges that are happening in Portland, both the East and the West, and also some of the solutions that he is bringing forward. What a move now to your ministry.
Before you move, Robert, let me say that one of the things that are going to be done is, and Minister Samuda made mention of it this morning, while we are going through this drought, there's going to be some emergency allocations for both water supplies, both the minor and the NWC water supplies. I got the estimates for the minor water supplies for Portland, the entire parish, and they require $40 million to basically improve the supply systems, catchments, changing up pipes, etc., etc. So it's not money that the government can't find, and it will go a far way in sorting. And the other thing I would say is that I'm making an appeal. So based on all that I've said and the causes of the problems that we're facing, that we don't introduce the politics as is being done. Portland has 9 municipal council divisions. All of them are suffering. And yet still we have demonstrations in one of the 9, despite the fact that everybody is suffering from the drought and others are suffering from the road conditions. And it has been a weekly occurrence. 2 Mondays straight. Not only have they blocked the major thoroughfare, but they have blocked the bypass. So it is well orchestrated. And there's one common denominator. One political aspirant that lives in that particular division that is creating the problem. And I'm calling on the leadership of the PNP to rein in the political rogues, because demonstrating is not the answer, because it's a further inconvenience to the school children that are doing safety, to the judges that were supposed to go to Mansion Hill to try court on Monday, and every well-thinking, law-abiding citizen in Portland that has to traverse that route. Yes? Portland is a very small place. Everybody knows everybody and what everybody is doing. And I say it without fear of contradiction. One political rogue aspirant creating all of this. And I'm calling on the leadership. I already spoke to them in Parliament yesterday, explaining the situation. The Prime Minister explained himself very well in terms of the drought and the impact. And partisan politics can only increase the tensions down there, which are already high because of these challenges that we are facing. Yes? So that's my appeal. Okay? And I hope that the powers that be will listen, because it's not doing any good. It's only furthering the situation in Portland.
Thank you very much, Minister Vaz, for giving us that update on the two constituencies in the east of, well, it's East Portland and West Portland. We want to welcome our viewers on TikTok. We're live on TikTok as well. We're also live on Facebook and also live on, I think, YouTube. And we're live here on Love 101 FM in Kingston, Jamaica, where we're getting updates from our ministers and agency heads about some of the developments in our country. We're going to move now to your ministry, Science, Energy and Technology. You're currently in the middle of reforming the Cyber Crimes Act. And as we say, we're live on social media. Can you tell us how that process is going?
We are in the process of creating a cyber authority, which is going to be housed in the ministry. We are getting great support from our partners, international partners, both in terms of grant funding and technical support. We are far advanced, but as you know, cyber is one of the most critical things that any government can have in place, a good cyber infrastructure. And the bottom line is that, unfortunately, we are woefully behind in relation to making sure that we have what we need. And it is a priority of the ministry. But as I said, the government has committed, I think it's 4 or 5 million US, and we have also gotten grant and aid to the tune of another 4 or 5 million. So we are using that now to come together and put together a proper cyber authority, because that is what is critical in the times that we're living in. We're seeing increased attacks on government agencies and, of course, the private sector, many of which don't report it. But obviously, our JISTV in our ministry is very, very active. But we need a more robust authority, and of course we need personnel. So those are the things that we're working on now, which I'll speak to about in Parliament this evening.
Thank you, Minister Vaz. So other than the whole issue of government attacks, there's a lot of questions about online safety. I know that you had a big discussion a couple of weeks ago about persons who were taking pictures of accident scenes, and I think the opposition member Julian Robinson suggested that we should put in place some penalty for persons who share these gruesome images online. I know that afterwards, after discussions, you decided with the committee that it wouldn't make sense to put in penalties like that. Could you explain to us some of the discussions around it and what was the decision of the committee as it relates to that issue?
So yeah, there was a big outcry in relation to it, and the point that the member made, which I supported, which I'll repeat, is that it is very difficult for family members or loved ones to be aware of a tragic or a very serious accident through social media. It's not right. It's not right. And the fact of the matter is that whereas in days gone by when I was young, you would move away from viewing or seeing anything like that if as best as possible. But now it seems that we actually gravitate towards it and actually take pictures and resend all around of people that have been tragically injured or killed in car accidents or other attacks, whether it be gun violence or whatever else. And I just feel very strongly, Robert, that that's not the way for loved ones to be alerted of situations such as this. There's a protocol that the police use where they don't disclose the identity until they have spoken to the next of kin, etc. And I think that was the point that Julian was making. There was a big discussion, and we decided not to use more moral suasion and public education rather than trying to penalize But I do still feel very strongly that we should try and deter people from that type of activity, because it's morally wrong.
So we've dealt with that. So we will not be applying penalties for persons who may take pictures of accident scenes, but we will be trying to educate them about the trauma that this can have on family members who would probably be learning about the demise or the injury of their loved ones for the first time. And we just want to say to the public, you need to be careful, you need to be conscious, you need to be considerate of your fellow Jamaicans and others when you go on these scenes and you take out your phone, because you don't know, maybe the parent or the child will be learning about something happening to their family member for the first time, and they would not be in a position to get any comfort from other members, and it could be very traumatic. So really want to appreciate that initiative that you're planning to engage in to educate the public on that. But I want to move now because
it can be dangerous, Robert. Can you imagine you're driving on the highway or thing, and all of a sudden a picture pops up on your phone, and when you look at it, it's your daughter, your son, or your mother, or your father, or your husband, or your wife, or whatever it is, your best friend. I mean, that's no way to learn about that kind of tragic situation through some unethical person sending out and posting these pictures. No, it's wrong. It's wrong.
Definitely, and I really want to thank you for that, Minister. Really, thank you for that encouragement.
I have two other areas, Robert, that I'll be dealing with specifically this afternoon.
Sure, go ahead.
That will be of very, very keen interest to the country, and it will have a massive impact on future generations. And that is the renewable energy, and of course the national broadband, which Minister Clark tabled the order yesterday to engage the IFC as a transaction.
What do you mean national broadband, Minister Vaz? Not everybody understands these technical terms.
So basically what we decided coming out of COVID is that the government could not be dependent on a particular individual provider to supply and provide internet to every nook and cranny of Jamaica. Wi-Fi, connectivity is probably the best word that I can use. And what has happened over the years is that the private operators that come into the space, they need a return on their investment. So basically they go where they can get customers, paying customers, and they leave out the areas that you and I represent in the deep rural communities.
That's correct.
What we are doing, and we have started it through the USF, in terms of community Wi-Fi, etc., is all well and good. But we want to be in a position to be able to roll out connectivity through every nook and cranny of Jamaica as a government partially owned or fully owned. I guess the transaction advisor will advise us what the best methodology is, but it more than likely will be a private-public partnership. But the end result is that the entire country will have connectivity, and that's very important in where the world is and where the world is going. And that's a mandate that I got from the Prime Minister when he offered me this portfolio in 2020. We are now at the stage where the ministry has done everything to get it to the point of where we can appoint a transaction advisor who will do the RFP, supervise and oversee the implementation and the methodology of what the best arrangement is, the most cost-effective arrangement for the government of Jamaica. So I'll be speaking about that and the renewable energies.
Before you go to renewable energy, though, I think we need to go a little bit further into that broadband, because I remember when I was working at the Ministry of Education, one of the biggest problems that we had was getting internet connectivity or access to children, especially in rural areas, because remember we were using at the time the Google Classroom, and they had to download content, and we were also using the virtual learning where they were going to school on the tablet and on the computer rather than physically. You would have a rural constituency, so do I. And you would have seen the impact that COVID had on educational outcomes and the ability of children to really aspire to their greatest. What will this have? Like, give me an example of how this broadband initiative that the government, through your ministry and through you as minister, is putting in. Give me an example of how this will impact people on the ground.
First of all, the most important thing will be the cost. We will have to find a way to make it affordable to all stratas of society. Right now, cost is a big issue, as you know. So that's number one. And number two, we need to carry it the last mile so that it is available in every community in Jamaica. So you just tell me your deepest rural district in Clarendon, and you will get the answer right there. It means that we will bring it at an affordable cost to every nook and cranny of Jamaica.
So this means that people in, let's use Moko, which doesn't have good internet, can expect that over time they will have access to connectivity, which will actually give them opportunities. Because, you know, Minister...
Reliable. That's the word we need to use, because the fact of the matter is that the biggest complaint now that exists is the unreliability and the cost.
But Minister, you know, one of the interesting things, I mean, I remember when I was campaigning, I went into this very deep gully, that I call it. And I saw a little house on the side, and a guy had this microwave thing on top of the roof, and he was trading foreign exchange. And it just brings me to the idea that a lot of our young people are not going into offices anymore. They're on their computers. They're doing jobs in China. They're doing jobs in Australia. So giving rural young people and rural folk access to the internet is actually creating additional employment opportunities and economic development in these communities.
It has the most far-reaching effects and impact, because the bottom line is it will help as long as it's used responsible, it will help from the youngest little child to the oldest man that's still alive, once it is that they have affordability and they have reliability. And that's what we're working towards. That's a mandate that I got, and I am proud, and I will speak more about it this evening, but I am proud to say that I have brought it to the point of where it is now with the Ministry of Finance to sign off with the IFC, which is a subsidiary of the World Bank, and they will come up with a model, and they will manage the process until the day when it is completed and implemented. My original target was 2025, 26. Obviously, we might get a little setback in terms of time, but the sooner the better, because until we do that, Jamaica and Jamaicans will not have cutting edge that will bring them and be able to make them get the best service to be able to be the best that they can be.
Thank you very much, Minister Vaz, for that. But you are going to move on to the energy sector.
So, yeah, and quickly, because I'm going to run now to try and complete my sector for this evening. The bottom line is that the renewables, 50% by 2030, started at 30%, the Prime Minister moved it to 50%. And the bottom line is that will have a huge impact, because it will bring the costs down of energy down, which is a big issue for investments in Jamaica, and of course the people who are suffering on a daily basis from the exorbitant JPS bills. So we are moving to do that. We are at the stage where finally the generation procurement entity, which was mandated by Cabinet to be the implementer, has now put out their expression of interest last Sunday for 100 megawatts of renewable as a first tranche. And of course, that means the process has been completed from my ministry with the GPE, and the now RFP, assessment of the RFP, and implementation of these renewable projects, which are, again, is another game changer for Jamaica, especially for this and the future generations. So I have a lot more to speak about this evening, and I ask everybody to pay keen interest, because it is game changing for
But
the future.
before you run, Minister, you're going to the future, but you can't forget your past. Bob Marley spoke about that. We know that Jamaica now has probably one of the largest solar farms in the Caribbean. Could you tell us about some of the initiatives that we have done already to make us one of the leading renewable? I would love to hear about the electric bus and about the electric buses that you're going to bring to JUTC. I would love to hear. Yeah.
So we have been the leader in wind and solar. We are now again the leader in the EV. As you would have known, we announced that the Prime Minister recently made adjustments to it where all EVs, all category of EVs, whether they be bikes or motor vehicles or any type of vehicle, has a special concessionary rate of duty. We have led in terms of bringing in a EV bus for testing by the JUTC, and of course we will see government setting an example by starting to use EV vehicles in our fleet once they become affordable and of course available, because that's still an issue based on the fact that they are just being introduced. But what is important with that is that we were able to signal the government's policy, and once we signal the government's policy, that will allow for the manufacturers to slot production lines for the dealers, which they were not prepared to do before. So we were being left behind, and other countries who had EV policies were getting all of the production capacity. Now Jamaica is in that loop because we did that earlier, end of last year, and the EV policy itself is coming out in short order, but people are already importing EV vehicles, and of course the government must lead by example by trying to transition in the fleet from the fuel to the EV. Of course, EV has constraints in terms of distances, so you'll have to have a mix, especially in the transport sector. But in terms of individuals, the technology is moving fast. The batteries are improving and reducing price, both for the solar and for the other. And the wind, as you say, so the RFP that's coming out for the 100 megawatt.
And RFP is request for proposal, right?
RFP is request for proposal. EOI, right? So we are the EOI stage, and that will go into RFP, and that process will be completed this year. But again, there's a lot of other substance that I will give later on in my presentation. But to say that Jamaica is trying to stay in tandem with the rest of the world in terms of the energy and of course the technology, and it's the only way for the country to truly say that we are moving to prosperity.
Definitely, Minister, and I really appreciate that. So, tell me, I mean, I'm actually now on TikTok. There are a lot of people on TikTok watching me. They're watching me and listening to you.
They're watching and listening to me. Okay.
Yes. So, we recently imported an electric bus, and we're testing it, and people are asking, why do we have to test the bus? Why do we have to test the bus? And I would love for you to explain to us why we need to test the bus before we put the bus on the road.
Let me tell you something. Whether it's an electric bus or it is any CNG bus or a diesel bus, whatever it is, government cannot invest and spend the levels of money that they spend buying what I call pushing bag. It's a policy that must be implemented right across, that before you spend the taxpayers' money, the vehicles need to be tested for our conditions. And based on the testing for our conditions, then you adjust the specifications for the order and the RFP that you put out in terms of the specifications. Our country is different. All countries are different, and of course the geographics, etc., etc. And the bottom line is that what may be good for one country may be totally disastrous for another. We have a situation in Jamaica where if the bus is 25 seats, it's 40 and 50 people that it's carrying. we have to make sure we have adjustments for that, because if not, the bus will last 6 months or a year and you're back to square one. So testing of buses or any equipment that government is purchasing should be a prerequisite, because once you do the testing, you can then adjust the specifications to suit your specific needs rather than just a standard specification that is done. You may need to adjust the height, you may need to adjust the suspension, you may need to adjust so many different things to make it meet the standards that you require for the usages that you are using and the terrain that you are using. So that electric bus will be tested for 3 months, and it will be analyzed, assessed, made out, and of course after that, whatever is going to happen in terms of the procurement will have the specifications that we need for Jamaica and not for anywhere else.
Thank you very much, Minister. So I know you're running because you have to prepare for your sectoral presentation, but as it relates to your overall portfolio, where do you see Jamaica going in terms of our energy security or technological advancement over the next 10 years? We have a lot of young people in Jamaica who are wondering, is Jamaica the place I want to be? And your ministry is one of the key ministries that is going to lay the foundation for us to have a modern society. And I would just like, before you go, for us to give us your vision as it relates to what you want to see Jamaica be. Are we going to have 100, 200, 300 electric buses to JUTC? Are we going to have solar panels all over the country with renewable energy? Are we going to finally be able to go down to a car mart and buy a Nissan Leaf or a Tesla instead of buying a gas car? And when will we have charging stations all over the island so that if I buy a car, I can just plug it in and charge? I would love to hear your vision in relation to those things.
Energy security is #1 priority, and the fact of the matter is that the quicker we move away from fossil fuel is the reduction in our import bill of billions of dollars a year. That will be savings that can go towards infrastructure projects and all the water we spoke about and the roads we spoke about. And the bottom line is the renewable is what is going to do that. And that, of course, once you are dependent on imports of fuel, then obviously you need to make sure that that reduction is fast and furious. So that we are pursuing 100%. In terms of the landscape, you will see over time the introduction and the moving away from gas vehicles to electric vehicles and other technologies that will come up fast and furious as well. There's no two ways about that. And in relation to the technology, of course, you know, you're a techie, so you know how fast that is moving and all that is happening. Artificial insemination. I just went to Washington last week and learned all about
artificial intelligence. Yes,
intelligence. And let me tell you something. It is mind blowing.
Are you worried about that, though, Minister?
Well, let me tell you something. After listening to the presentations in Washington last week, I absolutely am. I don't think that there'll be anything that it can't do that we are doing now in the shortest possible time. And of course, what we need to do is not prohibit it, but regulate it and monitor it to make sure it's used for the best reasons and not for the worst. But yes, so what the mandate of this ministry is and the government that is we're a part of, Robert, is absolutely 100% to stay on top, on cutting edge, and make sure that we are not behind and miss the opportunities that are coming with all that's happening in the world today. And it's going to be a different world every month and every year going forward because of the rapid changes in all of the aspects of energy and telecommunication. There's no two ways about it. I mean, when last have you made a regular call?
It's been a while. It's mostly WhatsApp.
And guess what? and the more it cuts off on you, the more you use it, because it's not the same as a direct call, but it's free, and everybody that's just the way of life now. A year ago it was different. A year ago you see the landline, and nobody has landlines in the house anymore. You used to pay thousands of dollars a month and thousands of dollars for phone bill. I can't tell the last time that I picked up my phone at home to make a phone call.
Yes. So
everything is instrument related.
But Minister,
and the instruments are becoming more sophisticated, and basically you can open your gate. There's nothing you can do with your handset.
You as you mentioned phones and internet, you recently got approval to allow Starlink, which is Elon Musk's satellite internet provider. And based on what we're hearing, the speed of Starlink is like 4 or 5 times sometimes the speed of the other guys. How did that happen? How did you make that happen?
Well, that was a strategic move by me and the ministry when I saw what was happening, and I realized the issues that we're facing in Jamaica. And I had discussions with them in Washington last week, and there's a lot more to be announced in short order, because basically while we're rolling out the broadband and while we're waiting on the third telecom provider to get up and running, we can use this to improvise both in terms of government and both in terms of the populace. And as you know, it is not as affordable as I would like it to be for the average person, but at least it's giving the opportunity to people who are not served, the underserved and the unserved areas of Jamaica are using it extensively. And I get WhatsApps and messages every day thanking me because it has changed their lives. It changed their lives completely in terms of how they operate and how they keep in communication with their business and personal. So listen out later. I'll see you in Parliament at 2.
Thank you very much, Minister. There is one person on TikTok who asked a question before you go, and this is a final question to you. Mm-hmm. Minister, can you comment on what is being done for job creation? And I think it's Fox Don 876 on TikTok is asking that question. From your ministry, could you respond to him for me from the side of your ministry?
Well, basically based on the initiatives that we're moving in terms of energy and telecommunications, it is going to require and create employment at all levels of society, from construction to actual operations of these energy facilities, and of course the telecommunications providers. So from that standpoint, I think that just as tourism is booming and other industries, and the construction industry is booming, and jobs are at unemployment is at all-time low, I think that these new initiatives with energy and telecommunications have the ability to offer jobs at all levels of society. But most importantly, we have to keep up with the training. So heart has to be well oiled in terms of making sure that we're spitting out the classes and the certificates, so that these people can be qualified to take up these positions at all levels. So there's a lot of coordination that has to take place within government and the private sector, but it's all good in terms of the trajectory that we're on, and what we as a government want to achieve for the people of Jamaica.
And Fox John is asking us a whole myriad of questions, and I will answer some while you're on air, Minister. One, he says most Jamaicans can't afford the new technologies. The fact of the matter is that not everybody is going to be able to afford everything. But just as though when I was a young man and cell phones came in, most of us couldn't afford a cell phone. But as more people started buying cell phones and the technology got better, the competition made it cheaper. Yeah. So you may not be able to afford the new technology now, as we were not able to afford cell phones 20 years ago. But now every single Jamaican has a cell phone. As it relates to technology advancement, we're doing code training at heart with Amber. We're doing so many initiatives to equip young Jamaicans with modern technological skills to be able to compete in a global market. A lot of Jamaicans are not even working in Jamaica right now. They're on the computers doing work for BPOs in Australia and all over the world. So I am not going to allow anyone to tell me that Jamaicans are not innovative and Jamaicans are not bright. We have some of the leading young Jamaicans young people in the world are Jamaicans. You know, and we have to really be proud of them. And I want to thank you, Minister, for being here with us this morning to give us an update on what is going on in your constituency and that of the wider Portland, as well as what is going on in your ministry. And I really want to also thank you for the work that you're doing in the ministry and giving us online here at Love 101 FM and all over on social media, giving us an opportunity to ask you questions and understand what you're doing.
Thank you very much. All the best. Everybody keep safe. All the best.
Thank you very much, Minister Daryl Vaz. For this week's edition of Good Morning Minister, we're here every Wednesday morning on Love 101 FM from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., where we will have a minister here with us, whether online or in studio, and we will take your questions, whether it's on social media, whether it's on Facebook, and we will give you as much information as possible. Look out for us next week. We're going to go out again with that lovely song, Nadine. What do you think?
I like it.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to my TikTok family. You've been wonderful. Fox Don, you know, must not always be so negative, you know, good things are happening. I'm going to dedicate this song for you. This song that we're playing right now is yours. Nadine, give us that song so that Fox Don can get some Jesus in his life.
We fall down sometimes, but we get back up again. Yes, we do that. Rise back up again for a sinner. Everybody say now we fall down sometimes, but we get back up again. Sometimes we fall, but we get back.
Thank you very much, Nadine and Fox Don. Much respect, big up yourself. Thank you for joining in. Thanks to all the listeners on Love 101 FM. Thanks to the team here at Love 101 and my team. Behind the scenes from the Office of the Prime Minister, Nadine, you've been a company. You've been good company.
Well, if I have a preacher in here, you know, encouraging us to,
you've been a good company. Every week we come, we're gonna motivate the people with a wonderful, nice, uplifting song. There, I mean, so many good things are happening in Jamaica, but I find that sometimes we try to focus on the negatives. Yes,
it's not what you see.
Yes,
it's what you look at.
Yes, it's not what you see, it's what you look at. Yeah. I am always motivated. Every morning I wake up, I am just waiting to go to make Jamaica a better place. And I'm happy that you guys are partnering with me here at Love 101 to tell the people what we're doing. Thank you very much, Nadine. Thank you, TikTok. We're off, we're out. Have a wonderful and safe day. Big up on yourself.
No matter how far you fall, you can get back up.
Every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Love 101, you're invited to listen to Good Morning Minister, a weekly feature where government ministers will speak about the development in their various ministries. Listen for the updates and have your questions and concerns ready to share inside Good Morning Minister as the Minister of Information, Robert Morgan, and a guest minister or agency head discuss the issues and take your questions and suggestions. Get ready to call in during Good Morning Minister, 11 a.m. on Wednesdays, right here on Love 101, the family station.
Thank you so much. Do be sure to join us again next week when we'll have another program in the series. This is Love 101.